Hi everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webcast, JDE Security, E1 Pages, Composed Pages, and the JDE User Interface. My name is Kaylin Hensley, Marketing Coordinator with GSI, and I'm also very pleased to welcome our main presenter, Kyle Gray. Now, before we get started, I wanted to give you a chance to review our Safe Harbor Statement. Now for a quick overview of today's meeting, which will last about 60 minutes. First, we would like to take a moment to go over a couple of housekeeping items, as well as provide a brief company overview. Then we'll turn it over to Kyle to get into our main presentation and demo, which will last about 40 minutes. Next, we'll take a minute to go over upcoming educational events. Then we'll wrap up with a 10-minute Q&A session. If you would like to submit a question, you can do so through the questions panel at the bottom of the GoToWebinar console window located on the right side of your screen. Please note that questions will be answered at the end of the presentation, so if you'd like to minimize your GoToWebinar console during the presentation, just click the right-facing arrow key on the top left of the console. Clicking the left arrow key will return the console so that you can input your questions. Now I'd like to give you a brief overview of GSI. GSI is a full-service JD Edwards consulting organization. We're an Oracle Platinum partner that was founded in 2004 and now has over 100 employees. We have offices nationwide and are recognized on the Inc. 5000 list of fastest-growing companies in the U.S. GSI specializes in project consulting, managed services, and cloud and hosting services, with all of those services backed with a 100% guarantee. GSI also provides a broad spectrum of business, functional, and technical consulting services for Oracle NetSuite, Oracle Cloud, Salesforce, ServiceNow, and other enterprise applications. In addition, we are a product development company that has many popular products, including Genius, which is our advanced monitoring and performance analytics solution for JD Edwards or any business-critical system on any platform. Genesis is our load stress testing application for system design, validation, or expansion for JD Edwards or any web-based critical system. G Shield is our comprehensive security solution for JD Edwards, including password reset and 2FA authentication. Rapid Reconciler, which allows you to effectively manage your inventory, in transit, and RMB reconciliation processes for any version of E1 or World. Rapid Approval is a Salesforce App Exchange solution that streamlines the approval request process. And now I'd like to turn things over to Kyle for our main presentation and demo.
All right, Kaylin, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right, perfect. Well, good morning and afternoon, everyone, depending on where you are joining us from. As Kaylin mentioned, I'm Kyle Gray, and I'm one of the security consultants with GSI's security team. So thank you for joining us for today's webinar on JDE Security E1 Pages, Composed Pages, and the JDE User Interface.
Kyle, I don't think we are in full presentation mode.
That's a good point. Usually down there, slideshow, there we go. How's that? That looks a little different though. We need, no, we don't want to see all slides. We'll get there, we'll get there. Do you know how to get rid of this left column or the right column here?
Try going down to the bottom.
Guess do that. How's that?
That looks better.
Perfect. Alrighty. Why is it doing that? Give me one moment. I'm gonna end this and all right, let's try this again. I've got two screens up here and it's okay. We'll go with that. All right, back at it. Today's agenda, we're going to learn what UDOs are. More importantly, we're going to define and understand E1 and compose pages. Next, we're going to learn or how these pages have enhanced the JDE end user interface and experience. And then finally, we'll go over some instructions or a brief demo on enabling the setup and configuration and the security management of these pages. Moving forward, what are user-defined objects, or UDOs, or UDOs are some of the known nicknames for them. The JDE Oracle definition states that JDE web interfacing objects that users can create for personal use, sharing with other users, and viewing/using other users' shared UDOs. As you can see here, there's just some of the more commonly used UDOs. There is a bit longer list now with the newer releases in JDE, but some of our common ones are grid formats, queries, our cafe ones, one view, report, and watch list, images, orchestration, which is a newer UDO aspect, and then the two highlighted ones, which we'll go over today, are our classic E1 pages and the composed E1 pages. Something to keep in mind here, and I've got it highlighted down here, is that the ability to create, share, and view these UDOs is granted by your sysadmin. In prior years, prior releases of JDE, this is not how it used to be. UDOs used to come unsecured. So again, props to Oracle for securing those upon delivery now. So that is what that little sentence there means. In the system, you cannot do anything with UDOs until the system admin has granted that and enabled these UDOs. So taking a little further look into the classic E1 page, and again, the JDE definition is an Enterprise One page that enables users to work on multiple Enterprise One applications. Classic pages are HTML files and can contain any HTML-enabled functionality such as interactive process flows, URL links, and web pages, company logos, and so on. This is the first screen that a user sees when they log in. As you can see here, they haven't navigated to any of the menu or done anything with recent reports, and then there's no open applications. This is just simply access to a E1 page that has been created and pops up on their screen when they log in. Again, these are presented as tabs in E1, so you can see these tabs here. This one is a particular process flow. You can see the arrows pointing through the entire process flow there. So this one was created for, it looks like, the budgeting team. That you can see, that's the tab that is selected here. And then obviously you're assigned to either users. You can assign them to a role, which is a group of users, or anybody who has that role assigned, or you can assign it to star public, which is the entire user base. Composed E1 page, it looks similar. It has some of the same features. It's still tab generated. The Oracle definition is an Enterprise One page with user-defined layouts that enables users to access designer panes, watch list panes, classic pages, E1 applications, one view reports, web pages, OB objects, and ADF applications. We'll go over a little bit more in detail. You'll see these in the designer pane window as well, and we'll actually focus on manually creating a composed page using the designer pane. The composed pages are created using the a JDE page composer under the manage content, which again we'll show you here in a few minutes. And the unique thing about these is there's no HTML content required, so you don't have to. The difference between these two, a composed page and E1 page, is that the HTML content, and that the HTML content for a classic E1 page is constructed and done outside of JDE using something such as like the E1 page generator. That'll convert and compress the files down to a DAP file, which then you can take and upload into JDE to become an E1 page. That is not required here. You can use task ID. You're able to use the object and version itself. Again, the ADF applications, one view reports, any queries or watch lists that have been created can be used and created via a composed page. We will see more on that here shortly. All right, so we know a little bit about E1 pages. We know a little bit about composed pages. how have these enhanced the JDE end user interface and experience? So traditional access is done through the menu tree. You see favorites down here. Most of you might think, yes, it's done through favorites too. It is. We'll get to that in a second, but it's done through the menu tree. I've provided just a little snip here that look like we're trying to access payroll. So you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4. You'd have 5 clicks down the menu tree, so it's 5 branches deep, if you will, before you could even get to any of the applications under the payroll module. Again, to access multiple applications from the menu, once you access it and you're done what you're doing in there, if you close that application, the menu tree is going to go away. There is a breadcrumb that you can follow off to the left. However, that's still additional clicks, or you have to go back through the menu to get right back here. Even if you were to use the batch time entry file upload, be done with what you're doing, close it, you'll be navigating right back through here to get to the next process that you would be, or task you'd be doing in this process. So inevitably that can cause delays in production task completion. Users or depends on the server, response time in the web. I'm sure most, if not all of us, have dealt with poor response time. Hopefully not. If you are, congratulations, lucky. But delays in server response, I mean, all of those things, all of those aspects can go back to efficient and effective completion of work. I have grid formats inserted here, and I just wanted to mention that was one of the original UDOs, and it was one of the original UDOs that really enhanced the JDE user interface and experience, for that matter. The grid formats, if you're not familiar, are usually done at or inserted at Start Public. We'll get to that in a second, but meaning everybody can access them. Let's take voucher entry for instance. You're in the voucher entry program, and you are looking up a voucher, and you only need a couple pieces of information from that voucher, but the grid line may have, let's say for round numbers, 20 different columns. Well, you're gonna have to you're gonna have to scroll, you're gonna have to search through the data what you want. Personalized grid formats allows users to, when they go into their program with their personalized grid format, they can only see the data, or they only see the data that they want to see. So I did want to mention that that's one of the original and unique UDOs that enhance the end user interface. And then finally, favorites. Favorites are widely known and widely used across all JDE, that at least in my experience. They are good in the sense that they provide shortcuts and you don't have to go through the menu tree and so on. However, they're tied to the user ID. So if the user access changes, there's potential that they could still have access to P0411, but potentially now their access is to a different version. And if that favorite does not have the correct version, there's a chance they could be accessing an incorrect version of P0411 and updating data, manipulating data that they shouldn't. That's just one for instance, but as you can see, if it's attached to the user ID, that really, once you save that favorite, it really kind of disconnects from what access is connected to that user. So that's why, and I think I could speak for our security team, we try and shy away from using favorites for that matter. All right, so what is an E1 or a composed page, or what has it done for the end user interface? As you saw before, that was the menu tree. You had to go through that to get what you needed to access. But you see here, we have a payroll composed page created. And this has all of the sections of the menu and the objects that were within each of those sections. So there's no more clicking 4 or 5 multiple times to get to the access that you need, or having 8 to 10 open applications over here because you don't want to go back through here, or having your favorites, which could potentially be granting incorrect access. So this is a much neater, much cleaner end user interfacing look here. And more importantly, you can, as soon as you log in, depending on the access and the roles assigned to you, these pages appear. And multiple E1 pages or composed pages, no problem whatsoever. It goes the same as having multiple roles assigned to you that you can see up here, the banner. those are the multiple E1 pages that this user has, or roles that the E1 pages or the compose pages are tied to, that this user has access to. So again, no problem with having multiple E1 pages or compose pages. All right, so before we can use any of these, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, that Oracle no longer delivers UDOs enabled. So in order to even have anybody work on them or have UDOs workable in the system, they have to be enabled. So we're going to go through and look at the classic and E1 page compose configuration. All right, so to do so, you're gonna go do this through it's what's called feature security, enabling your UDOs. We'll navigate to the security workbench, which is P00950. We'll choose the form exit and feature security, as you can see here in our left screenshot, and then it'll open up this revised feature enablement screen. I went ahead and changed the both of these were already green because they were already enabled in the system I was working in. However, I changed this one to red to show you the difference between the two. Obviously, red's going to mean no, that the feature is not enabled in the system. So we would want to change this to green as the composite page looks to be green here. And then you don't have to save it. It automatically saves the error here. Don't worry, it's just saying we need to clear cache and log out before we can work with that. So simple, enabling your feature of any of your UDOs in your system are done right here, just like this. Okay, so next we need to secure or assign access to be able to work with our UDOs. Typically, this is done with more of our CNC or sysadmins and maybe our developers. End users are typically left out of creating, modifying, publishing E1 and compose pages. Grid formats, queries, those sorts of things are typically granted at Star Public, and we allow folks or end users to freely create those as they will, but we wouldn't want, and especially depending on your user base, we wouldn't want thousands of E1 pages out there. So definitely left at a higher end user standpoint. Second question is, should these be granted at Star Public? I kind of just covered that. No, we don't want to grant those to at Star Public. You can see down here they are. That's just because it's our demo environment, and we've got access to do everything. You would not want to do that, again, for those reasons previously stated. Grid formats and your queries and such and your one views, those can be at Star Public. But to do so, you come down into the back through the 950, you come through the UDOs or user defined object and click on content security. It'll bring up this screen. We know that it's not assigned to any users as of right now, or I do. So what we would do is we want to add a content security record. So we'll click the add button, and it'll bring us into this screen right here, where we're going to enter. We know the feature that we want to assign. It's a composite. So we enter our composite here. We enter our role. For this purpose, we're going to enter sysadmin to, and again, that can be your CNC admins, or it could be your developers, whatever role or user you want to assign this access to, you enter this here. And then again, this green and red signifier here means yes, that this role can work with this feature. You click save there. You can come out here, and I like to verify that the record did insert, and we click find, and there we go. Our record down here at the bottom highlighted is entered, that sysadmin can work with composite pages. All right, now we have enabled and we have told the system which user or which group of users or which role can work with this particular feature. So we need to now go grant which particular rights that they have pertaining to this features. We will go back to the security workbench, user-defined objects, UDOs, and we'll choose the action security this time. And it'll bring up the following screen. We know the object type is composite. Your application will fill in star all, because any application or UBE that you put on your compose page will have that access. You put your role in here, which is our sysadmin, and then we come down here, we enter sysadmin again, and we have the option, as you can see here, to change these to differ in the access that we want. But for sysadmin purposes, we want to grant them full access. So we'd save that. And as you can see here, this is the screen it brings you back to. We hit search, and you can see our security record for UDOs is inserted. So sysadmin has full access to composite pages. Here's one just to show you what it looks like from a security record standpoint for action security. The help desk is able to create and publish a new one if you know, a ticket or something were to come in to do so, but they're not allowed to modify any current ones. So again, you are able to differentiate your levels of action security access here. All right, so now we're going to get a little bit into the instructions or tips for setting up composed pages. We're going to use composed pages as our example today, and yep, we're going to move forward right into it. Setting up of composed pages and classic pages, for that matter, is done through the Manage Content screen. As you can see here, well, first let me note this notated here says must access through JDE home screen. What that means is if you're in an application anywhere on your home screen and you are trying to go over to where your name is and click down to click on this Manage Content Compose Pages, you can see over here that is not available. I took a little bit of a screenshot trying to get both of these in here, but here I'm on my home page. You can see the banner where the other E1 or Compose pages are, and then there's the blank home screen. That's where you're able to access it. Over here, I'm in a grid, and I'm in a program in JDE, and the grid is populated. Therefore, if I were to go in here and try and access it, that's not an option. So it must be done from your home screen. Once you click Manage Content, it's going to most likely pop up with whatever was last created, or if there was another E1 page or Compose page that is assigned to you that you have access to. It's thinking that you're going to probably want to modify that. So we don't. As you can see, I was filtered on payroll earlier, so it thinks I'm filtered on payroll, or I should be filtered on payroll when I come in to manage content. Just a personal note, because that can be a bit misleading. We'll want to click Create. That means, or it tells the system that we're trying to create a new one, and it needs to kind of wipe out what we're seeing and accessing down here. Once you do that, this is the screen that appears. This is our Manage Content screen. So as you can see, there's two options, and it shows you here, but I went ahead and pointed them out because they're much smaller, and it took me a while to even see what understand what these meant and where they were. But they are right here. This is what we click to create a new some new content, and if there is, and we want to modify any existing content, we click this, or open any existing content. So obviously we're going to click the new because we're going to create a whole new page for one of our roles. So here's where before I mentioned the designer pane window. So we have our choice of, we can add a one-view report to our Compose page, an Enterprise One application, classic page, to the Compose page, a URL ADF application, watch list pane, and a springboard pane. Today we're going to use the designer pane just for manual purposes. So you click on that, and it would bring up the next screen, but we're going to first talk about how we need to set this up, because the next screen is going to be this one, and you won't know what that looks like quite yet. So this is the menu tree for voucher entry. We're going to use AP's voucher entry role in Access to construct our Compose page today. Here, all these yellow, in between the yellows, is what we're going to construct our page to look like. So we want it to follow the menu tree so that it looks similar to the menu tree, but yet on an E1 or a Compose page. So we're going to use the wording of supplier voucher entry, and we're going to use, for this purpose, we're not going to use all of these. We're just going to use the first two. Obviously, if I was creating a true Compose page the entire time, I'd use all of these. But we will use two sections, because this is the voucher entry role, which grants access to all these subfolders, and then obviously the objects within these subfolders. So I'm going to create two sections on our E1 page, and I'm going to put an object, at least one object under each section, so you can see how the layout goes. All right, so again, let me go back one. This is, you click the designer pane. You wouldn't then see this. This was just more of a planning exercise here. figuring out how many rows and columns we need. Here's where we choose our rows and columns. So we're going to have 2 columns because we're going to insert 2 objects for the first section, and then we're only going to have 1 row because we're going to have those 2 objects. We'll add the section later. So we put a name in there, AP voucher entry. That's the process or the role that we are creating our compose page for, and then we give a description of voucher entry processing or whatever the description is you're creating. We click the OK button, and we then see this screenshot right here, which creates the compose page, the default compose page that is just the raw meat before we enter our data. So we want to begin inserting our information. So if we go back a slide or two from our menu, you'd be able to get you could use the task ID if you wanted. I'll cover that in 1 second. There's 2 things you can, or multiple things, but for this instance, 2 things you can use. You can use the object information, which is the P0411 or the R, whatever it may be, or you can use the task ID and tie it to the compose page. For this instance, I'm going to use the object information. So I've already gathered the object information for each of these 3 objects, and we're going to start composing those on this page. As you can see, I went ahead and entered speed voucher entry here, but I'm showing you that I'm entering and how to do it. You click this plus sign here, and it's going to bring up this configure tile. Under the tile type, you have the option to choose application, UBE, which is your report, a watch list, ADF application, or you can do, like I said, task ID. So we're going to do application. Here's the application that I had already retrieved, P0411S. And when you enter that and tab out, the cool thing and unique thing, because it's interactive, is that it pulls up any forms related. So if there's multiple forms out there, it pulls all of those into this drop down, as well as the versions. So you're able to, you don't have to go and make sure you have the correct version. You're able to choose it here and which version you want. Again, just kind of a neat feature interactive wise. Default style is fine. You can change the style of the tab if you'd like. And then the color blue, we're going to keep it for this one, and then we enter the tile title. So then we click the OK button, and we now have our 2 up here. And as you can see, they've inserted the name autofills. And if we were to save this, we would be done. But we want to enter our second section here. So I'm going to go back 1 because I've got this little signifier here. It says if we're going to add another section, which, thinking back to our menu, we've got our voucher entry. That's what these 2 are, and there would be more, but we're only using 2. The next section was so we click on that, it'll open up this right here. This is the pay when paid voucher entry methods. Okay, so if you remember back to our menu tree, I obtained the necessary info. I entered it here, just like when we entered it right here. Move forward, and now you can see how the page is coming to life. So we're not going to move forward with adding all of the objects and all of the sections, but just like that, that is how simple it can be to add or create a compose page, add objects and sections to it. So when we're done, we click the save button. That would save it. It would pull up a screen or a little dialog box that would want you to name it. I named it AP voucher entry. That's the process or role that we're tying it to. And then once it's saved, you can click the close button. It will take you or get you out of the manage content program. One thing I like to do is, you can see here, I'm out of the manage content program, but I'm just on my home screen. The AP voucher entry compose page now shows up on my home screen because I have sysadmin, and more importantly, I created it. So as you can, that's a good verification or confirmation that you can see your compose page. It looks the way you want, and you can move forward with the following steps that we're about to cover. Okay, so who can access this newly created composite page? Well, right now it's sysadmin only, because that's the only people that we've assigned it to. But more importantly, it's only accessed by sysadmin because, 1, it was created by that, but 2, it's not shared right now. We need, as you can see in this user defined object status down here, O2, when we go into the work with UDOs, that O2 means editing. So that's not going to be shared, and it's not going to be viewable / usable for any of our other users. To share that and make that so, we highlight our row, click row, and improve share. That will then take us from a status of O2 to O8, which is shared. So it is shared in that environment, specifically only that environment. UDOs are environment specific. So to get them from, if this is created in DV, it's only in DV right now. It would either have to be manually created in each of the environments or put into a OMW project and promoted, and then go in and share it, approve and share in each environment. That we didn't have enough time to cover all the OMW aspects and how to do that, but that is scheduled for a later webinar in the year. So we'll cover that. We'll create a UDO to its full extent, show you how it ties together, and then go through the OMW process of promoting up by environments and showing you the environments as well. So for this purpose, we're just showing you that in this environment, whatever environment this may be, it is now shared in this environment, and anybody who has or is in this environment will be able to access it once we've assigned it to them. So how do we do that? Well, we know that we're doing this for AP's voucher entry process, business process, or role. So we go into our security workbench again, P00950. We go to our form exit, our UDO security, and this time we choose the last option, which is view security. So we've already created it. We've enabled it, then created it. We have shared it in the environment that we're in. Now we're ready to put the last step on and actually share it to our user base. So how do we do that? Again, this is tied, or it's going to be tied to role 04 BCH ENT. If you're not sure of how to figure out which role or whatever you're trying to tie it to, there is a visual assist when you enter your user role here, and you can look it up. It'll have the description if you're not sure of this naming convention here. For this purpose, again, I already researched this information and got it. So what we do, object type, obviously we know is composite, and the user role we want to tie it to is the 04 BCH ENT, which is voucher entry. Enter that there, enter it down here in the grid as well, and then we must look up the object that we need to tie to this role. So this is where I'm assuming most 9 times out of 10, maybe even more, we're not going to know this user-defined object ID. So we come in here, we use our visual assist, that would be right here if we were clicking in the grid, and then there's multiple ways you can look it up. You can look it up by your user ID, you can look it up by the object name, the description, so it's easy to locate and find. And then we insert it here. We change our little color code from red to green, which means yes, this role can view it, and then we click our save button. And then, as always, I like to confirm that our security records are in place. So as you can see here with the highlighted line, that 04 VCH ENT, which is voucher entry, again has ability to view this composite page, and the page name is AP voucher entry, which matches the one we did. If you were to scroll right on this screen here, you would also see the UDO object ID. But this will suffice to show you that we have added view security for this role here. So what does that mean that we've done today? We have showed you given you a brief description of what the E1 page and compose pages are, what they look like, how they're the data and how they're constructed, and then more importantly, we walk through steps of how to create a compose page in the system. Just like that, we've been on for about 35-40 minutes, and we were able to create a page. Now, obviously, we didn't finish the entire role that would grant access to that, but as you can see, it was not very time consuming, and it can easily be done. So the last bit I wanted to show you here before we get to some question and answers is the difference in the two views when a user logs in. So I'm logging in, let's say I don't have this E1 page right now. I'm just using JDE in its base form. I'm logging in, I'm going to AP, I'm going to voucher entry, click, 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 click. and I'm going to speed voucher entry. Now I'm finally ready to enter a voucher once this screen opens. Okay, I'm done with my voucher, but I need to run a voucher journal report. If I don't have my breadcrumbs up and I don't have this voucher journal report saved as one of my favorites, or I have a different favorite, as mentioned before, that might have a different version, or a previously saved favorite that I might not have deleted or removed, it could be granting wrong access. Either way, you're looking at another 5 to 6 clicks to get to just one more object, where if this was all built out here, when I log in, I'm not going through any menus. I don't really have to worry about any of my favorites if there are any. I look at my banner up here and I look for my composed or E1 page. That's going to grant all the access that I need. There's no clicks other than what you want to click on right here. And more importantly, it provides, or would provide, all of the access needed for each of these folders within role voucher entry. So as you can see, going back to the time, the overhead time, the delays in server response, because just because you've gotten logged in, sometimes you'll click each one of these and it may take a couple seconds or more to open up. And then more, even so, when you get down to the object you click it, it could take a long time. I've seen minutes, which is very frustrating to open. So not saying that that wouldn't happen with an E1 page, but you are foregoing all the other clicks and server pinging trying to get the access that you need. Again, inevitably, it's speeding up user access, which hopefully should be speeding up the effective and efficient work that they're providing. So I think I might have jumped the gun with question and answers there, Kaylin. If you have any housekeeping stuff to provide before we get to that, by all means do so. But that there did close out the presentation today.
All right, thanks, Kyle. And yes, I'd like to cover just a few follow-up items, and then we'll move into our question and answer portion of the webcast. Just one second.
Give you control back.
I can grab it.
Actually, I'll end the slideshow for one.
Our webcast today is part of GSI's free ongoing educational webcast series on JD Edwards. Our upcoming webcasts are listed on the screen. To view our most up-to-date schedule, please visit getgsi.com/JD-Edwards-webcasts. GSI provides extensive free educational resources for the JD Edwards community, including our weekly educational webcasts, monthly newsletter called the GSI Insider, online resource center where you can access our on-demand webcasts, white papers, etc., and on-site and virtual workshops. If you'd like to sign up for our weekly email reminders for upcoming webcasts, our monthly newsletter, or to create an account to access our resource center, go to getgsi.com, go to resources and events on the main menu, select JD Edwards, and then select the appropriate link on the right. Also, we welcome you to check out our ERP talk. The information is listed on the screen. Be sure to keep up with us on social media. All right, I would like to remind everyone that if you would still like to submit a question, you can do so using the questions panel in the GoToWebinar console window located on the right side of your screen. If you minimized your console earlier, please click the left arrow to redisplay the questions panel. All right, let me bring those questions up for us. All right, our first question comes from Terry, who asks, what version, and is there a special software to create? When I go through the process, it asks to upload a URL.
I assume, Terry, this is talking about E1 pages if you're uploading data. There is an E1 page generator out there that can be downloaded, and it will, I believe it comes with a guide. If not, there is one out there as well. But by all means, reach out to us if you have issues. That will kind of show you what data is needed, and then there's steps to go through to convert the data to DAT files, which then you upload into JDE using the managed content. The URL, there's another setting in JDE right by the URL that's it's upload a file. That's where you upload your DAT file, and then you can click save, and you go through the rest of the process of creating the E1 page. Unfortunately, with the time given and the steps that are in creating an E1 page, both in and out of JDE, we only went with the compose page demo today. But there is another webinar in the future where we're going to go over specifically how to set up E1 pages. So be on the lookout for that. And again, if there's any follow-up questions, or if I did not answer your question incomplete, by all means, please reach out to me or our team.
All right, thank you. Our next question comes from Becky, who asks, are there any performance settings for composed pages? In our environment, they take several seconds to load each time they are presented.
As far as I know, no. This could go back to the response time of the company's infrastructure. I have not seen any settings, nor have read any or heard of any settings that would enable tabs to open faster. I would love to know or to be able to use that. Obviously, I would turn that all the way up. But it also could be environment related. Obviously, we tend typically, or I should say not obviously, typically companies give more bandwidth or more attention to their production servers from a efficiency standpoint than they do their lower environments. So that could also play a factor. If you're testing and implementing a testing in lower environments, keep in mind that could also be a factor in response time when clicking on the tab.
All right, thank you. That appears to be the end of the questions for today. Thanks, Kyle, and everybody for your questions.
Absolutely.
As a follow-up from today's webcast, we ask that you complete a short 1-minute survey when you exit. You will be receiving an email with a link to our resource center on our website where you can access the recording from today's webcast, as well as a copy of the presentation. After today's webcast, we will do the drawing for the $25 Amazon gift card. Anyone who attended the entire webcast will be eligible, and we will notify the winner. Thank you again for attending our presentation, and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.